Test 1, 2. Is it on?
Should be. Green light.
Yeah, got a green light.
You on?
It's good to be on.
Amen.
Because you can sure tell when people's off. I want to preach to you a simple, just a very simple scripture.
Turn that one mic down. Just push it down. Get a ring if you don't. We don't want you in a ring.
Don't want to get a ring. Somebody got a call a while ago, and I thought to myself, somebody's got his number. Somebody's got your number too. And maybe somebody you don't want to have it. I get a lot of calls that I don't want. How many brought your Bible with you?
Yes, sir. We even got it on the wall.
Luke's Gospel, chapter 19.
Something buzzing, Coy.
It's that one.
Move one mic over a little bit of time.
Is there any way to cut it off?
No.
Okay. It's stopped now. If it don't start again, I can preach louder than that though. Luke chapter 19. You know, there's a question like that here that people have many times tried to figure out. It says, verse 1, and Jesus entered and passed through Jericho.
Yeah, come on.
And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was chief among the publicans, and he was rich. I want you to listen to the next verse now. And he sought to see Jesus, who he was, and could not for the press because he was little of stature. I want to stop right there and tell you something about this feller. Bible don't say a whole lot, but it tails off on him. Said he was chief among the publicans.
Yeah.
And he was rich. I come in early tonight. I didn't look at all the cars out there because there wasn't hardly many out there. So if you drive a Cadillac or a Lincoln, I'm not picking on you because you're rich.
Come on, brother. You don't have to be rich anymore. Just make the payments.
And see, if you're a little bitty feller, don't accuse this preacher of picking on you because you were little. I have respect for little folk. You know, you can't always tell just how big they're going to grow up. So you better not be too mean to them while they're little, because one day you'll have to look up to them.
I hear you.
It just so happens that this guy was rich and he was a little shorty, because the Bible declares so. And it tells us here in verse 3, he sought to see Jesus, who he was. Now, you wouldn't have got a good grade if you had used that kind of English when you was in the English class. Brother Denny, it's all right concerning Jesus to want to know who he was. Because, see, the Bible says who he was is who he is.
Yes, sir.
And it also goes on to say it's who he will be.
Yes, sir.
Brother Denny, I'm glad I didn't know who you was.
Come on now.
It might not have been a pretty picture.
It wasn't.
I'm glad y'all don't know who I was. But to know who Jesus was, that's all right.
That's all right.
And church, I want to tell you about this fella named Zacchaeus. He wanted to see who Jesus was. In other words, he's going to find out who he is.
Find out something.
He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He changes not.
He don't change.
How come you change? You say you're like him. You say you're a Christian. That means Christ-like.
Come on.
Church, this fella wanted to find out who he was. And you know what? The Bible tells us because he was a little shorty, he didn't do like a lot of church folk did. Some people today, I enjoyed your testimony, sis. You didn't hunt an excuse to stay home.
Come on.
We're not supposed to hunt an excuse to stay out of the house of God.
Come on now.
We are to be faithful. We ought to. My wife, she wanted to go somewhere the other day and we wasn't even obligated. But somebody said, I want you to pray for me. She says, that's reason enough to go.
Reason enough.
That's reason enough to go.
Come on.
Church, we ought to want to go to the house of God. You see, this fella here, in verse 4 it says, and he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree, for he was to pass that way. Have you ever wondered why he wanted to see Jesus so bad that he had laid aside all of that pride, all of that dignity?
Yeah, come on now.
The Bible says you must become as a little child and act like a little child and go out there and climb that sycamore tree to see Jesus.
Skinny up that tree.
I want to tell you why I think that he wanted to see Jesus that bad. If any of you grown men want to find a tree around here tonight and go out there and climb it, I'm willing enough to go out there and stand or sit and watch you climb that tree. This was a tax collector. Wouldn't we like to catch our tax collectors up a tree?
Leave him up there.
They'd want a chainsaw. But he wanted to see Jesus that bad that he would climb a tree in public. I'd like to watch him. Bible don't tell us everything that happened. I don't know how many times he slipped back down. I don't know how many times he just about fell out. But something made him want to climb that tree so bad that he would act like a child. And he would go out and climb that tree in public. Let them laugh at him. What you doing up there? I want to use my imagination now. Because something motivated him
Yes, sir, it did.
to want to climb that tree more than anything else in the world
I believe you heard something about Jesus.
to see Jesus.
I believe you heard something about Jesus.
You see, I know that they didn't have the modern tax way of collecting the money. Here we got easy ways to get it in, get it out.
Yeah, it's in the election.
But back there, they didn't have all that. So I'd like to picture somewhere around April 15th, tax time. He goes out there and he knocks on the door. Why? This lady comes to the door, and he can tell it. She don't look right. Matter of fact, she's a whole lot better looking than she should have been. And he says, ma'am, before we start talking taxes, I want to know what happened to you.
Yeah. You're different.
Your record shows you've been 12 years sick. And you don't look like you've been sick a day in your life.
Your life. Come on, man.
What happened? She said, I'll tell you. She said, I was out there and I heard a loud commotion. There was a crowd, and the one that I'd heard about was out there in the middle of that crowd.
Yeah, come on now.
And something within me said, if you can just touch the hem of his garment, you'll be made whole. But then, there was that other feller that caused her to have a lot of fear. It was the priest. Well, how could he make her have fear? Because in that day and hour, he could have commanded her to be stoned for being in public with an issue of blood.
Yes, sir, brother. Weren't allowed in public. Come
Church, she says, I got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
I got to touch it.
She pressed her way through the crowd. Don't y'all try it at Walmart tomorrow. She might have been elbowed. She might have been spit on for getting ahead of somebody. But in that weak condition, she pressed on through. And when she reached out with probably the last bit of strength she had and touched but the hem of his garment, she was made instantly whole, church. And you know why she did it? She pressed through the crowd. She obeyed that spirit that told her, touch but the hem of my garment and I'll make you whole.
Just touch him.
Some of y'all sang that song. Come by, Jesus, you know. Hey, Jesus wasn't coming by
We need to go
close.
to him. Go to him.
This woman
Go to him.
went and touched him.
Go to him.
When Jesus is not touching you, you can reach out and you can touch him by faith. Because the disciples said, Lord, the Lord asked, who touched me?
Who touched
The disciples thought he was talking wacky.
Man, you've been
All these people around you and you asked who touched me? There was one lady in that crowd that reached out and touched him by faith. Church, he said he felt virtue go out of his
Yes,
body.
sir. You moved him.
Her faith brought that miracle to pass. Your faith will bring a miracle to pass. It's not your tears. It's not your crying. It's your faith. It's your faith. Believing that God will.
Yes.
He slowed down just a little bit. And what's his name? I gotta see this guy.
Yeah.
That you can just reach out and touch the hem of his garment and you'll be made whole. And the doctors, they couldn't help this woman.
Yep.
If you notice what the scripture said, she suffered many things as the physician, not her disease. They used her for guinea pig and rather grew worse. Can I tell you something, church? Your faith can touch him and you could be made whole.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what disease, what problem.
Come on.
Jesus took the stripes, and by his stripes you could be healed. And he says, what's his name? I have an idea. She smiled real big and said, Jesus. He pulled out that special pad. Must see Jesus.
Must see Jesus.
I got to see this man that the doctors couldn't do nothing for this woman. And you could just touch the hem of his garment and be healed. I got to see this man. Probably collects some taxes, goes on down the road, comes up to an intersection. You know, it don't matter about the IRS. If you owe a little bit, they want it, or you owe a whole lot, they want it. And he began to inquire. Hey, where's that old blind beggar at?
Yeah.
Where's he at? I don't see him in his place down here.
Yeah, you severed out there.
Somebody said, didn't you know he's got a nice house up on the hill? What? Yeah.
How do you get that?
You know what? He can't believe this, but he ain't down here. But he's got to collect taxes. He goes up on the hill and he knocks on this door. And lo and behold, he comes to the door. Zacchaeus, he don't understand. But the fella on the inside, when he said, I'm Zacchaeus, a tax collector, he just bent over double laughing at him. He said, what you laughing at me for? Well, I thought your revenue was all big and bad, and you're just a little shorty.
Little short guy.
Church, the devil wants you to think he's a lot worse than he is. He wants you to think he's some bad. But just think this. The smallest one of God's children can back him up. can put him in his place. Church, I'm glad to tell you, you don't have to be afraid of that rascal.
Come on.
You see, my Bible tells me that the angels of the Lord go with us to protect us. And you know what? It only takes one angel to bind him.
Come on.
Come on.
We got angels with us.
Sir.
So you don't have to worry about it. Our God's a great God. And he says, man, you can't see. But he said, but I can see. Well, how did that happen? He said, I was down on the wayside bagging one day, and I heard, and just because one of my senses didn't work, that didn't mean my other four didn't. See, we were born with 5 senses, and the old timer said we can pick up a couple of more on the way. Anybody want to help me out a little bit? What are they?
Yeah, come on.
It's called common sense and horse sense.
Horse.
That's to use the others you got.
I hear you.
And he inquired, what's going on here? What's going on here? He could hear the commotion. And somebody said, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by.
Passing by this way. Coming
And you
by
know
this
what?
way. Come on.
He began to cry loud. You know why some of our people today don't get sick? Brother Denny, you have to bag them to come down to get prayed
Come
for.
on now. Come on. Come on.
Come on now. You know what I'm talking about. That blind beggar, he wanted to be healed.
Yes,
He
sir.
cried, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And he just got louder. And you know what happened? Somebody told him, cool off. You don't have to act that way.
Yeah, come on.
Do you want Jesus to heal you or not? Come on, if we'd get radical about it, if we'd get loud about it, if we'd get stirred up about it, I believe we'd get the need met.
I believe it too.
And see, we find here that Jesus come calling for him then. Did y'all know that? He called for Jesus. Now Jesus is calling for him. And anytime he calls for you, he's got something for you, church.
Something for you.
He's got something for you. And you know what? He asked him what it is that he wants.
What do you want?
Did not the Bible say if you delight yourself in the Lord, he'd give you the desires of your heart?
Come on.
Don't you believe that old blind beggar was delighting himself when he wouldn't let the others in authority say, cool it, boy, quieten down. He just got loud and kept on. He wanted something. Jesus was offering him the desires of his heart.
Yes, sir.
And more than anything else, he said, Lord, that I might receive my sight.
I want to see.
Church, I don't know how you feel, but I know blind Bartimaeus, the first thing he saw was the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. When those eyes come open, I have an idea he done some shouting of his own. Church, he got exactly what he believed God for.
Yes, sir.
What he asked for.
We will too. Come on now.
And I believe you'll do the same.
Come on.
I believe you'll do the same. Our God is powerful. Our God's still in the healing business. Church, when you and I really believe, we receive. I believe it slowed down a little bit. He said, what's his name? Anybody can just speak the word and the blinded eyes open. His name is Jesus. Pull that pad out again. Must see Jesus. Underlines it. Church, do you want to see him? Do you want to see him? Do you want to see him as bad as Zacchaeus did? He'll show up when you want to see him that bad. He starts down the road and he comes up to a house that it looked like it had been just almost deserted. But now it's got a fresh coat of paint on it. Yards are mowed. It's fixed up, looks nice. Looked like a new attendant moved in. But when he goes up and knocks on the door, this fella comes to the door. And when he sees him, he backs up a step or
I
two.
can't believe in this. Ooh, come on now.
He said, man, did you move from where you used to live? He said, yes, sir, I'm glad I did.
Yep.
Well, sir, I want to know why. I want to know how. I remember when we took a whole city out there to try to bind you. Your dwellings was in the tombs, in the graveyard, in other words. And we tried to bind you with chains and fetters, and we couldn't bind you. But he said one day, I got up, and something said, your ship's coming in today.
Go down to the shore and watch it.
And when he got down there, his ship come in. Jesus stepped off the boat. And you know, when he steps off the boat, when your ship comes in, he's got everything you ever needed.
Everything.
Did you know that Jesus spoke the word and cast out a legion of devils out of that man?
Amen.
He was so relieved. He was so peaceful now. He was not tormented anymore. That herd of swines come out of, or them demons come out of him and went into a herd of swines. It tormented them so much they went down and drowned themselves.
Drowned themselves in the lake.
But you know what Jesus said about that man? He was found clothed and in his right mind. Brother Denny, it ain't a clothesline sermon that I'm preaching. But he didn't steal those clothes. He wasn't a streaker anymore. He was found clothed and in his right mind. He had the clothes on because he was in his right mind.
Come on.
People were fearful of him. But church, when you're in your right mind, you're going to do right.
I believe that.
You're going to be right.
I believe that.
He slowed down a little bit. He said, what was the man's name that got off that ship? He smiled at him and he said, his name's Jesus. His name. I got to see that man. Pulls that book out, underlines it again. I got to see that man. When the whole city can't bind him, he goes out and with a spoken word sets him free.
Sets him free.
Church, he changeth not. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Some taxis goes on down the road, comes up to a door. That there's a little boy, something's wrong with him. Sometimes he casts himself in the water and fire. He just, something wrong. But he has to collect taxes, so he goes up, knocks on the door. This little boy comes to the door, all happy, smiling. May I help you? He said, I'm the tax collector. Is your dad home? Yeah. Takes him by the hand and said, Dad, the tax collector is here. Leads him in. By this time, Zacchaeus, he's not figuring this one out. He said, is that the same boy that was here last year? Yeah, Zach says, that's him. He said, what happened to him? Something's different about him. Well, he said, I can tell you what happened to him. I took him out to a prayer meeting at the outskirts of the town. And there was 11 big guys in there. And I said, if you can do anything, help my boy. They all tried and they couldn't help my boy. But he said there's one, said our main spokesman up here in the mountains talking to his daddy.
I hear you.
If you're not in too big a hurry, he'll be back down in a little while. So he said, I'm not in that big a hurry. I want my boy to get help. So he waited around. And true to their word, here he comes down out of the mountain. Been up there talking to his father. He says, if thou can believe all things. He said, I couldn't lie to that man.
Come on now.
I looked at him and he had eyes like he could just see right all the way through me, right to the very soul. And you know what I told him? I was honest. He said, Lord, I believe, but help thou mine unbelief. You know how faith cometh? Faith cometh by, now I'm going to prove something to you right here. Faith cometh by hearing the word of God. Do you understand the scripture? He came in the volume of the book. This man got to hear the word speak itself. Did he get his answer? Sure he did. Faith cometh by hearing the word, and the word spoke. Proof's in the pudding. His boy was made whole. Ain't that wonderful, church? It works just like the word said it would work. It'll do that every time, church.
Yes, sir.
You say, well, sometimes it don't do that for me. Sometimes you and I let a little doubt. But if we could remember, this man said, Lord, I'm believing with all I got. So help my unbelief. Let the Lord make up the difference, church. You can believe Him for the other things. You can also believe Him to stand on your side and believe with you.
Yes, sir.
He did it for him. He's no respecter of person. So don't sit in your seat of do nothing and do nothing when you could use what faith you got and ask God to make up the difference.
Yes, sir.
Because He made it up for him. He'll do it for you and I. He goes on down the road after he collects some taxes. Comes to a house that had been tragedy there. He thought he'd see one of the two beautiful ladies at that house. But when he knocks on the door, guess what happened? This man comes to the door. And you know, he wasn't expecting that. He thought there'd been a death in the family.
Yeah.
And when he seen him, his eyes got big. And man, on the inside, you look like you've seen a ghost. He said, I believe I have. What happened to you? They buried you, didn't they? What happened? How did this happen that you're in the house? Feller, can I tell y'all one thing that is very, very strange? Some people say, well, I can't do nothing for the Lord. This man named Lazarus caused a lot of people to get saved. But he didn't have to do nothing. All he had to do was just walk around and let people look at him.
Yeah, I hear you. Come on now.
Because they seen a resurrected feller. They seen a feller that had been dead and buried. But he ain't dead no more. He said, what happened? He said, well, my sisters called for my best friend when I got sick. And all of a sudden, I just kept getting worse and he didn't come. And then I just went out and I don't remember nothing until I heard somebody calling my name.
Calling my name.
And he was saying, Lazarus, Lazarus,
Jesus.
come forth. We can't make excuses, Pastor. Lazarus come to himself. He was bound head to foot.
Yes, sir.
But the same one that called him back from death told him to come forth.
Come out of here. Come on now.
And they tell us there's about 12 sets of steps that go up. You say, how did he walk out? He didn't walk out. He bounced out there like this. How else would a mummy come out? Bound head and foot. When he got out there, he told that crowd that had gathered. Now you've got a responsibility.
Yes.
Jesus told that crowd, loose him and let him go. Church, there's so many people around us. I mean, in our churches too, that's so bound. They can't loosen themselves. And sometimes those that's bound are going over and praying for somebody else to be loose. You got to get loose yourself before you go loose somebody else. Church, get it right. You got to be free before you can set somebody else free. But when he sets us free, we're free indeed. He collects some taxes and goes on down the road. He's made up his mind. I've got to go see this Jesus. Can't wait no longer. I got to go see this Jesus. And about that time, somebody hollers at him. Anybody want to guess who hollered at him? Nobody wants to take a wild guess? It was old Simon Peter. He owed some taxes. And you know, If some of us would really start obeying the Lord, maybe He'd send us fishing.
Amen on that.
Hello? Wouldn't it be good that you could pay your taxes by going fishing
I hear that.
and catch just one fish?
Wouldn't need but one.
When he got over there to old Simon, Simon said, my master told me to pay his taxes and mine. Why? Where'd you get this coin at? He said, my master told me to go fishing. How many fish did you catch? He said, just one. You see, we miss it sometimes because we don't obey what the master said. When you take up the first one, if he'd have just thrown the hook back out there and not looked in his mouth, he'd have lost out.
Yep.
He'd have lost out. He had to do exactly what the master said. Don't add to or take from. Do it like the master said. And church, he paid 2 people's taxes by going fishing. He said, Simon Peter, what was that guy's name sent you fishing? He said his name was, I was going to see him when you interrupted me. And if you don't think you'll get interrupted when, says, you ever really make up your mind you're going to fast or you're going to pray, you're going to get a hold of God today, and the phone will ring, or somebody will knock on the door, somebody will distract you. I know what I'm talking about. Somebody will try to keep you from seeing Jesus because the enemy don't want you to see Jesus. So he said, I'm going to see him. I've got to see this man. Can pay your taxes by letting you catch one fish. There's nobody else like him. I want to see him. I want to see who he was. So he hurries back to town. And he got there in this big old crowd. He's a little shorty. Well, he didn't act like some of us. Well, it must not have been the Lord's will.
Crowd to be.
They got it blocked.
Man. All them
Can't
big
get through
guys.
here.
All them big guys right in front of him.
I can't see over.
Come on.
No, the Bible says he ran. He had to go around. And he got over there and he climbed up in this sycamore
Out
tree.
in the trees. Come on, man.
And guess what? He got up there and he got anxiously waiting. And the master walks right under the tree.
Right up under the tree.
See, sometimes when you and I've got an ideal and don't follow it through, we won't see what we want to see accomplished.
Come on now.
It was in his mind, and it was put there of God, I believe, that if he'd go over and climb that sycamore tree, you can see him. And you want scripture for that too, I guess. In the day you seek me with a whole heart, you'll find me.
Come on.
You'll find me.
Come on.
You'll find me when you seek me with a whole heart, not half-heartedly. And you know, it's almost like somebody told on him. He stops right under the tree and looks up.
Yep.
Church, he could have asked, who told you I was up here? But see, it worked out. Jesus told him to hurry down. I must abide at your house.
Going home with you. Come on, Zach.
Jesus wants to go home with you. Now, if you claim you got saved and no changes took place in you, I believe the old cat, old dog around the old home place, know if you got saved or not. You see, Zacchaeus, he knew he had done wrong in his past. And you know what? And Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Lord, behold, Lord, half of my goods I give to the poor. he was cheating people out of money. He was sort of robbing them.
I ain't gonna give
What a change. Half of my goods I'll give to the poor. And if I've taken any man falsely, or by false accusation, I'll restore to him fourfold. In other words, I'll pay interest on it. Church, he had a change of heart. You can tell when people have a change of heart in church because, you know, you talk about their billfold and they don't mind it. When they didn't have a change of heart, you talked about their billfold and they said, all he wants is my money. Well, see, I didn't come here after your money. I come by to tell you when there was a change made in your heart, it should have changed your billfold too.
Yes,
or
sir.
your purse. I didn't leave you ladies out. You see, what I'm preaching, what I'm teaching will put money in your pocket. My Bible says give and it shall be given.
shall be, man.
And you can't never give as much as he can give.
Come on.
You can't never do it as good as he can. Church, I want to encourage you. Something made Zacchaeus want to see who Jesus was.
Yes, sir.
And I believe it paid off. See, the Bible tells you, by the word of your testimony and the blood of the Lamb, we're made overcomers. I believe somebody testified to him. And that old wicked tax collector
Yes, sir.
found out who Jesus really was. His life was changed after that. I mean, it doesn't matter how bad you used to be. When Jesus moves in, it'll make 100% different. It'll be such a change that people won't hardly recognize you. You may be living in the same body, but there's got a new spirit in there. I want to encourage you tonight. If you feel like you need to make a change, find out who Jesus is. If you're tired of the old man or the old woman or the old boy, old girl you used to be, there can be a change that will make you different.
Yes.
It can be a change that will make you a whole lot more peaceable. People will want to know what you've got. I know what I'm talking about. I walked into a business the first time I ever walked in, and I don't know, he couldn't see what was on the inside, but he began to ask me about movements and things in his business because he perceived that I was a man of God. And he was asking advice about decisions of his own business. Church, if I can't see God living in this preacher, you know, how come some of y'all think you can see the devil living in others?
Come on now.
Come on.
Come on, brother.
Hello now.
See the
I believe it'll make a difference.
Yes, sir. I do.
He'll give you a light. He'll give you something. He'll change you in such a way that you'll draw people to you. That you can testify. I believe it was testimonies that led him to climb that tree
Yes, sir.
to see who Jesus really was. I believe it'll be your example on the corner, on the block, down the street somewhere. See, when Sunday morning comes, your car ain't supposed to be in the driveway, or your pickup ain't supposed to be in driveway when it's church time.
Come on.
Your neighbor can tell you whether you went to church or not, because they know you're supposed to. Hello? It'll make a difference.
Yep.
And you know, sometimes the neighbors are, they'll hear what goes on over there too. But you never have to be ashamed if Jesus lives in here. When you and I are real and rich in him, church, we can point people to Jesus Christ. You see, those people out there that had to pay their taxes, I believe every one of them had a point. That man needs to be saved. He needs to know who Jesus is.
Yep.
And church, every one of us are supposed to be a witness. The Bible says, let your light shine. Let your light shine. You know why it said let? Because if you're making it shine, you're a hypocrite. I mean, it's supposed to be real all the way through. And if you just let the Lord, church, you can win somebody. You can lead somebody to Jesus. And we ain't trying to just make it happen. Just let it happen. God is so good. And you know, it doesn't matter. All of you's got a talent. I hear people complaining. I can't do. Yes, you can. Every one of you have been blessed. And I hope every one of you start using your talents.
Amen. Come on, brother.
Because see, he took the one that away from the one that wasn't using it. And you know what? He gave it to the one that had the most. Now y'all wonder why I play so many different instruments? I guess somebody wasn't playing all of them.
Somebody wasn't playing. Come on.
It ain't that I'm greedy. But use what you got. Everybody's got a talent. And I'm glad some people's got a talent. One of the places, one of the highest hills up there in Georgia, it's got a Church of God right over there. And them mountain ladies could cook. And I used to preach so much over there. I preached pastor's appreciation. I preached revivals and homecomings. And one day I got up over there and said, I'm going to tell you ladies how to make a better banana pudding. And boy, some of the men looked at me like, you're fixing to blow it. So I smiled real big at it. And ladies, I said a better banana pudding is bigger. They all let out. You're right, you're right. Church, you've got a talent. You've got something you can do. Bless the church. Bless your community by just letting Jesus shine forth. He's got many different callings. And see, we're in a time right now when there's so many uses. Brother Denny, Pastor, correct me if I'm wrong. There's 9 gifts of the Holy Ghost. I'm not seeing but about 2 to 3 in our churches as I travel around.
Come on.
What happened? See, there's so much could be done. So much needs to be done. There's a lot of gifts of the Spirit that ought to be in operation. I believe there ought to be 9 gifts in this church being operated.
Yes, sir.
I don't know how many is present that has those gifts. But see, we can all seek to improve, seek to do better, that the church can be added unto. Did you know when people were really led by the Lord, other people on the outside heard about it, and they used to say, we're going to go to the show. We're going to go down there and see what's taking place.
What's happening?
Y'all didn't know I was old enough, but yeah. I remember where we didn't have no air conditioning. And a lot of them men sit out there in their cars. When they get to shouting and stuff on the inside, they're looking in the windows. A lot of times they got caught because the Spirit of God, they heard the word and it convicted them of sin. And they wanted to know what Jesus could do for them. In church, it happened. I want to challenge you, if you feel like you've been left out, won't you give Jesus an opportunity tonight to do something for you?
Come on.
I believe Jesus can do what he said he'd do. You say, preacher, why do you believe this? You see, I've been given up to die several times. I can do nothing without him. Carsville Air Force Hospital had me knocked out to take this arm off at the shoulder. Brother Denny, it's not supposed to work. I'm not supposed to be able to even lift it.
Look like it's working pretty good while it's moving.
Medical science says it ain't supposed to be there. My mother wouldn't sign the paper. They had me knocked out because it was messed up so bad. Right here at Carsville Air Force. Mama wouldn't sign the paper. She says, I'm going to have the church to pray one more time.
Come
Church, they prayed their prayer of faith, and God gave me my arm back. It's only been about 4 to 5 years ago I fell in the Great Smoky Mountains. Punctured my elbow here, busted up the elbow. I believe it was 3 hospitals I was in, 2 or 3 major surgeries. The last one, they even put a port in my chest. We couldn't afford to even buy the stuff to take it at home. They said it'd be $2,000 or $3,000 a day. But church, if you're living like He wants you to live.
Yeah, come on.
No matter how Satan tries to bring you down, God's still God.
He'll make a way.
Did you know I was in that last hospital for a month? You may tell you one big miracle. I never got one bill from that hospital. That's a miracle in the natural.
Amen.
I had a cast all the way down around my hand, around my fingers and stuff, all the way up. That hospital, a lot of people are put there to die. But you know what God did? When I couldn't even help myself, God gave us people. Walked into my room one morning, the lady that was over therapy. She was the boss down there. God said, witness to her. You think, what kind of testimony would you have if you can't even help yourself?
Come on now.
I told her about how God had put gas in my truck and let it run out 3 times in a row. And I didn't get mad. It's a new truck, pulling an Airstream travel trailer. But see, that last time, I realized what God was doing. There was a backslidden Pentecostal preacher from Fort Worth. He had backslid. Had him a truck driving job out there, and he was going north when I was heading towards California for a revival. And God let me run out of gas 3 times. So I'd slow down, that our ways would meet like this.
Yeah, come on.
And after he got me some gas, we went out to the restaurant. I let him know God's not mad at him. God didn't fail him. He got out of the will of God was the reason it happened. He listened to others. Lost his home. Church, God's a good God. And if He's letting things come our way, it's for a reason for us to help somebody else.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Come on.
And there I was in the hospital. I witnessed, and I told this lady that was on therapy. Next time I went into the room down there, them young gals that did the work, they said, "What did you do to our boss?" I said, "I didn't do nothing to your boss." "Why?" She said, "When she come back from your room, she was all bubbly and bouncy. She was all happy and excited." "What did you do to her?" Just told her about Jesus.
Yeah.
Did you know what? She said, "There'll be a young black man that'll be in your room in the morning." And she was over him, so he had to be there. She said, "I've never seen him down, never seen him this low. I want you to witness to him." True to her word, he walked in the next morning. And I told him about how good God was. Told him about the things that God had done for us. You know, He's a present help in a time of trouble.
Yes, sir.
Told him about the time when I didn't see no way out. And it happened real quick. Little narrow 2-lane road with rice paddies off on both sides. I said, "God did it, but I don't know how. I don't know if He widened the road or shrunk the bus." But all 3 of us passed when it was an impossibility.
Come on, brother.
Sometimes we just cry out that simple, "Lord, help me."
Yes.
And then he reaches down and he performs some miracles. Church, that young man was going to have to quit the job there at the hospital to go to another state to finish his medical education. And his car had quit, just tore up. It was going to cost more to fix it than it was worth. We prayed with that young man there in the hospital. You know what happened? It don't take God a long time to do anything. The wife met him next morning before he ever even got to my room. He's getting off the elevator and he was all smiles. You know, God worked it out to where he didn't have to quit that job. God pulled the strings for it.
Come on.
God can do that when you can't do nothing but just tell him what God will do.
Yeah.
And in less than 24 hours, God gave him a nice automobile. I don't mean with a payment book.
Come on, brother. Come on.
God gave him a nice automobile. And I didn't get out and sign no note.
Come on.
I couldn't get out. I'd have got out if I could. But I was bound there. But that didn't stop God from working.
Stop God.
Because God's still God. If thou canst believe all things.
All things.
Testify to somebody. It may bring them a miracle. You may be the miracle that they're looking for, that they need right at the time. I didn't know that I'd be playing music before doctors and nurses and entertaining people there in the therapy room. I could wiggle my fingers a little bit. I couldn't even hold a pick. Any of you musicians can hold a pick? Y'all were blessed. I couldn't even do that. I could just wiggle my fingers. They said, bring that guitar up and let him practice. That'll be good therapy. Lay that casting all over that guitar.
Yes, sir.
And I got to where I could just wiggle my fingers. I couldn't use the picks I'm using now. I had to get big ones. If you'd put them on like now, that fell off because my fingers were swelled. But I serenaded doctors and nurses. You see what God can do when you can't do nothing, Harley? Church, God's good. We've had to go back to that hospital several times to visit people. And you know, they'll run up to the wife and me, just hug us. Why? Because they seen God in our life.
Yeah.
We were a testimony to those people. Church, there's a lot of people that's hungry, thirsting, wanting something. And we ought to tell them, it's Jesus. It's Jesus. I've got to quit. So I'm going to give you a chance to start. Is there any tonight that you need to make things right with the Master? He loves you.